Welcome back to the show, everybody. This week's episode is going to be fun. I'm Ozzy.
I'm Zach.
Together, we've built multiple businesses, including Advirtis, where we've helped over 300 marketing agencies scale smarter, grow faster, and escape the chaos that most agency owners get stuck in. On this podcast, we're going to break down real conversations that agency owners are actually having, including sales, operations, hiring, scaling, leadership, like pretty much everything, including the wins and failures, all of it. Today, it's a fun one. We're going to go back a little bit in time to the beginning of 2025, and we're going to talk about a lot of things that happened this year, leading us up for success into going into 2026. And, obviously, Zach and I have this unique perspective because we partner with over 300 agencies in the last few years. We see trends that tend to happen and come down the cycle a lot faster than most, not including all the businesses that we work with. And so, today we're going to talk a little bit about like the AI overview with Google and what kind of chaos that introduced and agencies losing accounts due to talent and churn and the expensive hiring. We're going to talk about the CPCs rising from 17 to 30% year over year across Google and Meta, things like that. And essentially, we're going to talk about how agencies pivoted away from the risk of those types of things, which in return allows you as an agency owner or a business owner in general to see the future a little bit more clear on how you're going to take your business plan into 2026. So let's get started. Zach, talk to us about AI overview because I know you were super excited about that.
Yeah, was. So the AI overview, Google's AI overview was launched earlier this year. I'm not going to lie, it took out a lot of businesses' website traffic. And obviously they launched Google's AI overview. And for those of you who don't know, when you type something into Google search engine and it's question, it usually ends in like a question. Google's AI overview is leveraging their AI, Gemini, their large language model, Gemini, to try to answer it for you based on the search results, right? And combining sort of the best search results that I can find to answer your very specific question. And then it'll summarize it for you and give sources of other websites, blogs, videos, et cetera, et cetera. We were all pumped for this, but what happened was that so many websites traffic was question based, right? So for instance, let's say someone asked in the AI overview, how much does a new roof cost for my 5-bedroom, 2-bathroom home, right? Really simple. And this is a person that probably hasn't replaced a roof before or hasn't for a long time. And this is for their residential roof. And they're just wondering, hey, what am I going to have to pay here, right? And they have no idea. And they're not quite ready to talk to somebody yet and have a salesperson come and evaluate and do an estimate, all that good stuff. They just want to know based on pricing. Before AI overview, what would happen is the ads would show up, the Google local service ads would show up, the regular pay-per-click search ads would show up, maybe some Google My Business map locations would show up in the local map pack, and then a bunch of organic results of people giving like estimates based on their blogs and their websites, yada, yada. And so a lot of traffic would actually be funneled to these blogs, to these websites that answered the question, how much does a roof cost? But with Google AI Overview, what it's doing is taking the content from those websites, from those blog posts, and then pulling it out and then leveraging Gemini or a large language model to spit out an answer at that person right there in search. And this was their direct response to ChatGPT, where ChatGPT, you ask it a question and it just spits out an answer right there.
Wait, you're telling me that they don't have the attention span anymore of a goldfish?
Correct.
Actually,
Yes.
I heard that recently. Actually, I think I was reading a book. I think it was The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. And he literally spit out a statistic that was, I don't know if it was from like UC Berkeley or MIT or something, but they were like, the average human has a attention span of less than 8 seconds now. And this was like dated like 2019. Now a goldfish's attention span is 11 seconds.
Wow.
So the human has less of an attention span on average than a goldfish.
Makes
AKA
sense.
Why the overview matters.
Yes. So, attention is currency, right? And
Right.
Google wanted to give the answer to that user as fast as possible. And going to, clicking on a website and maybe not getting that answer and then going back and then clicking on another blog. Google just eliminated that by just giving a summary, which is called the AI overview, Google's AI overview. And
Smart on Google too, by the way, because
very
they're
smart.
trying to compete against OpenAI now, and they're like, we got to figure this out. If we want people to keep coming to Google to search things, we're gonna have to do something here.
Yes. But a large majority of websites traffic have decreased by a decent percentage because they got so much of their traffic from answering those helpful blog posts, like helpful blog articles. Now it's not going to their website. And their hope was that if we can get them to our website, then we can get them with a pop-up, or we can get them with like a deal or a hook or a monthly offering, or retarget them with our ads, yada, yada. But now,
Yeah. Which to me, it sounds like, which is one of the reasons why you've seen that CPC rise from, by at 17 to 30%, because you weren't get as much traffic to the website. And wow,
yep,
that's
yep.
wild.
Yep, that's exactly what happened. So that introduced this sort of arms race for everyone to try to figure out and crack ranking like you would with SEO, but ranking in the large language models, right?
Mm-hmm.
And people call it AI SEO or AEO or GEO or LLM rankings, or whatever, right? There's a lot of different things people are calling it, but they're now trying to race to rank in that new way that people now search and try to get answers, because people are going to ChatGPT, people are going to the Google AI overview, just asking a question and just taking the answer at face value and then going on with their day.
Yeah, I know. I do not use Google anymore for anything search related. I always use chat now. It's so much faster. But even so, like to your point, if you're an agency owner listening, the thing is you now have a new service line to sell. So what does that
Yes.
mean? It's like, yeah, the Google, the traditional search advertising cost per click has gone up, but now you have a new upsell opportunity to sell them on LLM service, which we actually just trained our sales team in today. Actually, is we just introduced this service a few months ago, and it's relatively newer, and people are starting to see the benefits of that. I mean, even Advirtis, like we've had a ton of leads come through our website because we rank organically in the LLM. And when you ask our, potential clients, our prospects, like, where do they hear about us? They say, oh, we've from Google or from ChatGPT. We heard about you from ChatGPT. It's like, okay, and it's like, in today and going into 26, that strategy is going to be important, especially if you are going to see those higher CPCs, agency owners, you better start learning how to sell LLM and trying to understand how that's going to affect your clients. And that's going to be a huge opportunity in 26 for your agency.
Yep. Precisely. And understanding the LLMs, even at a base level, and then having a team that can operate and deliver service where the KPI is, I want my client's brand to show up in ChatGPT. You got to have people for that. So if you don't have somebody for that, you either have to hire for that, or you have to outsource for that, or partner with somebody like Advirtis for that, where we do white label LLM SEO add-ons all the time to our packages, but you have to find something.
That is actually one of the points on this from 25 to 26 is, based on what we've seen, a lot of agencies, they had an issue with hiring because of talent, the way that talent goes now. It's like, especially in our industry, marketers, they tend to do more remote work. A lot of people in the marketing industry are very solopreneur like freelancers. So they're not just doing one full-time gig. They're doing a freelance project over here, one over there on top of their full-time gig. So guess what happens to that? If I've hired a really good, person on my team, talent, and they get a freelance contract that's worth, 10 grand because they finally closed a big one. Okay, see you later. I got this. I'm working for myself now. The churn in our industry happens so much. And oftentimes it's hard if you're not a big agency to keep your talent with things like benefits, like Ks and, salaries and all these different things like increases and stuff. So it's like you have to get creative. Well, we've seen a lot of agencies turn into the white label fulfillment model, which obviously we benefited from because we have the white label agency ourselves, but also, it allowed them to cut those expenses in hiring. So a lot of resources spent there. Zach and I can attest to that. We know exactly what that means, as well as the, time investment in creating the systems like we've talked about in recent episodes. You're not just hiring talent and spending resources like time and money in the hiring process and taking productivity away from your team. but you're also having to build the processes for these new service lines that, a lot of companies like Advirtis, we've built the whole service line for LLM now. So if you're an agency looking to sell LLMs, like as an add-on, you don't have to build that system out anymore. You can partner with a white label partner like Advirtis and be able to introduce that new service line today, like literally right now. And that's the big difference, and I think a lot of companies are starting to understand the benefits of that. And at worst case, you partner with that until you have it built internally yourself, and then you go hire, and then you diversify that risk. You bring it in house later. Not a big deal. It's an easy way to turn over a new revenue stream. So, but as far as like talking through that, I think you see these changes in market, and these agencies are losing these accounts because of the talent churn. Like Zach, I know you see this every day. Like when we are always hiring for talent. When we're doing interviews, I mean, how many applications do we typically get for one?
My goodness, we get like 1,000. We get like 1,000 applicants on LinkedIn for every one job, one role that we need fulfilled. And
1,000 are
it's,
qualified, by the way.
gosh, it's crazy. It's too much. I know that there's, a good fit, and I know there's a diamond there, but and my director of operations and our head of HR, like we have to sift through so many resumes and have so many interviews. In fact, my director of operations has told me before in the past that he hates it when we have to hire somebody because it just like a calendar is just blocked off. That teammate is basically just non-existent and not available for 10 to 20 hours a week because they're just interviewing people, right? Doesn't matter which teammate, they're just interviewing people.
And that's time away from your team too. So like, like you just said, our director of operations, he is inundated in meetings like for interviews, then he's not with our team, helping them in the accounts, making sure they're staying on top. Like it takes away productivity from the company overall, which in return, if you're a business owner here listening, that's time in the business, AKA resources, money spent somewhere else. Whereas these agencies are starting to see that. They're like, okay, like where can I, immediately increase my revenue without spending all this money and time? You start partnering with fulfillment partners, and that's it. And that's exactly the model that is starting to scale going into 2026 with the agencies, and they're trying to diversify that risk essentially. And I think, going back to the hiring part, Zach, it's like, when you're going through that process, it's oftentimes as a business owner, you don't even think of, you're just like, I have to do this. Like this has to be done. But it's like, there are other options out there. And I think that's something that even we learned early on as we were growing our businesses, any of the businesses we've been a part of, there's always a shortcut. And, with 2025 giving us these little like nuanced things, pivot in the industry, 2026, it leads us to this new business plan to where we can start with smaller core teams and outsource and have automation to help back that up. Thanks AI, and thank you white label fulfillment.
That's right. Well, even more so is, we have fully remote teams, people in different time zones working on the same clients, doing service fulfillment for plenty of marketing agencies that operate this way. And how do they do it? Well, they do it by having clean communications, leveraging tools like Slack, Microsoft Teams, Notion. They have clean project management tools that they leverage, like ClickUp, it's our favorite, or Monday.com, or Teamwork, or Basecamp. And they have clean KPIs and people to manage them and keep them accountable to making sure that their task load is getting hit, that clients are being served well, new accounts are being onboarded, optimizations are being had, and everything that goes with running a marketing agency. And if you don't have those tools, software, automations, whether it be AI or whether it be software as a service or whether it be a service fulfillment team, you need to get it because you're not going to be able to scale without it. You're going to get left behind. And if you're not going to level up, other people will. Your competitor 100% will level up and will be able to offer a cleaner, tighter service that they can actually fulfill on. And that kind of makes that client think to themselves, oh gosh, I wish I worked with this new agency partner forever ago. I didn't know how chaotic and how not put together my previous agency partner was. And we all know it's very easy for any agency to build a little bit of trust with the prospect, with the client, and say, hey, I can audit your account for you. I can audit your Google Ads. I can audit your SEO. I can look at your website. I can this, I can that. And it's easy to lose that client that you've invested so much into and worked so much into. But if you keep your processes tight, you keep trust at an all-time high, and you have experts on your team, that the client feels like, gosh, if I leave this agency, then I'm losing this talent, I'm losing these results, I'm losing uh the way that my business makes more money. I can't afford that. I can't do that. And that ultimately makes your agency sticky. And that's what people are doing now in 2026, going in 2026. And there's really no excuse not to, when all these tools have freemium plans, or they're pay to play and very economical for you and your agency to sell into.
Yeah. And I even say, like, I think this past year in 25, there's a couple really, like, if I were to summarize a couple different things, I would say, like, AI did not replace marketers. It basically replaced slow marketers, which
Yes.
again
Yep.
goes back to this whole talking point. It's like speed is everything in our industry because of attention. And if you're able to move quick as your agencies, kind of growing with the market, you have to move fast. And some of the most successful things that I've seen was agency founders building sales teams instead of relying solely on them to sell. That was a huge one I've seen, with the difference between with AI being integrated with content, like creative content. These platforms like TikTok and Meta, they're actually pushing human first creators, meaning like a lot of these people who are creating content, they want the authenticity. These platforms are incentivizing people to actually do human content instead of AI content, which is massive. Because if you're but the hard part is, how do you scale that? You have to use AI in the background, like it as an assistant. So a lot of agencies are going to start seeing their clients using that. And and again, we're ahead of the industry. So if you're the agency owner, we see this every day, but our clients, they don't. The clients don't know this stuff. They're not living in it like we are. So it's up to us to educate them on this. And honestly, I think short form content in general is going to start, basically have higher CPMs. We're doing more competition, which is going to be, you're going to be really good with your content. And then basically, I think with AI coming into play for next year, it allows for advertising, for SEO, everything. Our market's going to have to continue to shift. And if you're an owner of an agency, you're going to have to be ahead of that. So you're going to need a partner that is ahead of that for you. And if you are able to find that, you'll be able to move faster, which again goes back to AI didn't replace a marketer, it replaced a slow marketer. So you want to move fast with the industry, right? So I think that, and then, if I were to kind of narrow it down even further, this is every business out there. You have to stay ahead of market. You have to be unique. Another thing that agencies did this year that I started to see more at the end of the year, and I think, Zach, you would agree with me on this, is more related to how they were packaging their services. There was like hybrid retainers where it would do like a base plus usage plus performance tiers. So it's like there's a base like cost for your fee. Then if we hit certain checkpoints, there'd be like a usage cost. And then if we hit certain performance indicators, we got an extra like bonus of some sort. A lot of agencies are starting to turn to that model. We've
Yep.
actually quoted like at least 4 of those in the last couple of weeks, I think.
Yep.
So super interesting model. Do you want to talk a little bit on that? I think that could be
Yeah.
really helpful.
They're really, I mean, it's where marketing is ending up, right? People are not buying a tool, right? They're not buying a service. People are buying results, right? Why does a client reach out to a marketing agency in the first place? They want to get more money into their business. They want to get more money into the front door. They think if they spend this dollar with the agency, that agency can pump out $3 for them and they get a return on their investment. And sometimes it's easy to lose sight of that. And sometimes it's easy to focus on, executing really well on just the service. But marketing agencies are in an interesting place where they're not only judged on doing the work, they're also judged on the performance of the work. So you could set up a perfectly set up Google Ads campaign, the best ever, and it still sucks in its performance. It really can, right?
And it may not even be the specialist that set it up. It could be just the market itself.
It could be the
Not enough
market,
ad spend.
it could be the landing page, it could be the season, it could be like be how much you're selling the thing for. I mean, there's so many different things that it could be, but marketing agencies are judged off of doing the work and the performance of the work. So we see a lot of agencies flipping that on its head and offering a unique package where they say, we'll make sure to get you, home service based company, 20 leads a month, right? That's the offer. Do you want 20 leads a month or not? And then when they get that prospect and that home service based company is asking, well, how do you do that? It's like, well, we take over your website, we clean it up, we make sure it ranks well on SEO, we make sure that it's cleaned up well for the LLMs, and we start pushing it and getting traffic from ChatGPT. And then we also run meta retargeting ads. And then we also introduce a new offer every single month to keep your creative fresh. And that's their business model, which sounds like a really common, not sexy at all marketing agency retainer package, right? But instead of saying I do marketing for home service based companies, you're saying I give home service based companies 20 leads a month, right? And in there they have maybe like an onboarding setup, or they have like a baseline setup, and then like you said, Ozzy, if they hit certain benchmarks or checkpoints or KPIs overall, then they get more money, right? They get a share of the pie. And we see that happening a lot, which I know that the client likes, right? They feel like they're kind of getting a deal until like work starts getting ramped up. I think most people have enough grace and understand that when you work with a marketing agency out of the gate, you don't get results right away, right? Usually there's like a 30 to 60 to 90 day onboarding period, and, depending on the service and depending on the industry. That is killing it out there, where you're very specific on your offer that you're providing to people, right? I know we have other people say that they become fractional CMOs, and then they go into a business and they create a custom marketing plan for that business as their fractional CMO. And a lot of people love that idea because they can't afford to hire a CMO. So they feel like they get a CMO, but then that CMO just owns an agency and then comes up with a plan and then puts their agency on service delivery for that plan that gets approved. And that's the offering. Get a free CMO, right? For your business, but really you're paying for the agency side. So it's these little ways to package your marketing and your agency and the services that you provide, because it's just saying you just run Google Ads is not good enough, right?
Yeah, precisely.
It's
Yeah.
not.
And it's like you have to get creative in market. And so like if we were to kind of recap on some of the talking points that we talked about today, in 2025, we've seen AI really integrate into the industry a lot more than last year in 2024. And it challenged us as marketers to move quicker and to innovate and really change the dynamics of how we scale an agency. But even more so, it allows us opportunities to get into new service lines, because there are new things like with large language models you can do with SEO. We know that ChatGPT, based on one of our other episodes, is going to start getting into advertising, so that's going to be a big opportunity, I think, in 26. And, to Zach's point, getting creative with how you go to market and package you productize your offerings and in your tiers for performance. And then last but not least, which is my favorite, is diversifying your risk by essentially outsourcing, finding a trusted partner who has experience working with agencies, helping them grow, that's willing to invest into your agency as well. And that's kind of what we do in Advirtis. Not kind of, it is what we do in Advirtis. When we started the company, our goal was to partner with the agency to help them scale, but also to help their clients. So for us, it was helping two services with one service, or two businesses rather, one service. And so, what that means for us is, while we're helping you identify these trends, our sales team's coming in to help you build a sales team, help you resell our services. We're actually doing the fulfillment and helping you scale in these new service lines, as well as scale at the old traditional service lines. So the goal is to help each other grow and to support each other. So as we wrap up here, thanks for joining us this week. Next week, we'll be back to talk about probably revenue models for agencies and other businesses. And, if you learned anything today, if we were able to serve you well today, please like and subscribe. Just leave a comment below. We'll be happy to communicate with you. And thanks for joining us this week. Talk to you soon.